Ada Lovelace's life was a symphony of contrasts, a delicate dance between brilliance and torment. Born into an existence cloaked in secrecy and solitude, her childhood was overshadowed by her mother's relentless efforts to shield her from the scandalous legacy of her father, Lord Byron. His name never to be uttered in the house, not even allowing Ada to see his photo or learn his name until after he had died. Annabella, her mother, wielded control with a rigor that bordered on tyranny, her every action aimed at obliterating any trace of Byron's perceived madness from Ada's nature. Under this ironclad regime, Ada's formative years were marked by bouts of debilitating illness, periods of confinement that stretched into years, and a thwarted attempt at freedom through a daring, yet ill-fated, elopement at 17. Yet, amid the shadow of such rigorous control, Ada's luminous intellect could not be dimmed. Her genius found its expression in the realm of mathematics, where her groundbreaking contributions would forever alter the course of history. However, her path was far from linear. It was a labyrinth of personal battles, punctuated by passionate affairs, a consuming addiction to gambling, bouts of alcoholism, and recurrent, crippling illness. Her existence was a paradox, a mind capable of conceptualizing the first computer algorithm ensnared by the societal chains and personal demons that sought to confine her. Ada's final chapter was perhaps her most tragic. Stricken by uterine cancer, she endured her final days in excruciating agony, her suffering compounded by her mother's refusal to administer pain relief, believing that this torment was a necessary penance for her sins. Join us this week as we look at the scandalous and brilliant life of Countess Ada Lovelace. Augusta Ada Byron, later known as Lady Ada Lovelace, was born on December 10, 1815 in London, England. The only child of Lord Byron and Anne Isabella Milbanke, nicknamed Annabella. Byron was, as an ex-lover characterized him, mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Considered one of the greatest English poets of all time, his looks, aristocratic background, and scandalous lifestyle made him a figure of fascination and adoration. At Cambridge, when he was informed that pet dogs were not allowed in the dormitory, he responded by bringing a bear instead. Her mother, Lady Annabella Byron, was a clever, upright, and deeply religious woman who excelled in mathematics, earning the nickname Princess of Parallelograms. She was the heiress to a significant fortune, whereas Byron, though inheriting his father's title, also inherited his numerous debts, which only increased through his support for various causes, his extravagant lifestyle, and gambling. Annabella was initially attracted to Byron, despite his reputation, believing she could reform him. Within 3 months of their wedding, she was pregnant with Ada, and already disillusioned with Byron, who drank heavily, had numerous affairs, and spent her money on gambling. When Lady Byron gave birth to a girl, both parents were disappointed and often referred to her simply as It. Ada was named after Byron's half-sister, and when rumors circulated that Byron had also had an affair with that same sister, Lady Lovelace decided to leave her husband. Determined he would have no contact with their child. When Ada was just 1 month old, Annabella packed her things and informed Lord Byron that she was leaving with Ada. Byron, drunk at the time, responded with the line from Macbeth, "When shall we three meet again?" They would never meet again. Lady Lovelace wanted Lord Byron to have no contact with his daughter, fearing that his influence would corrupt her, and took full control over Ada's upbringing. She hid Byron's portrait from her and didn't even allow her to see it until she was 20 years old. Byron, who didn't contest custody of the child, wrote several letters to Annabella asking for news about his daughter and expressed his wish for a reconciliation, even including several poems written to her. "Is thy face like thy mother's, my fair child? Ada, sole daughter of my house and heart?" Ada was not allowed to read the letters or the poems until she was much older. A month later, Lord Byron left England to escape scandal, traveling around Europe and continuing to write to her before fighting in the Greek War of Independence. Annabella meticulously steered Ada's education towards mathematics and science, deliberately veering away from the arts and literature, as she believed they would corrupt her daughter as they had Lord Byron. Despite her intellectual prowess and dedication to Ada's education, Annabella often confessed to not being a natural mother, lacking patience for infant care. She thrived in structured intellectual pursuits rather than the unpredictable demands of a young child. This self-awareness led her to depend heavily on nannies and tutors for Ada's early needs, while she focused on molding Ada's intellectual development. As a young child, Ada was so terrified of her mother that she would scream and cry upon her entrance. Annabella demanded only the best tutors for Ada and insisted they be strict. If Ada misbehaved or answered incorrectly, she was locked in a dark closet to contemplate her actions or made to lie flat on a board, a practice Annabella believed would instill discipline. Despite these harsh methods, Ada was a gifted child who quickly mastered languages and mathematics. However, she was also restless and would often drum her fingers, prompting Annabella to instruct her tutors to tie Ada's hands to her sides to stop this habit. Non-compliant tutors were promptly dismissed. Outside of her studies, Ada enjoyed constructing elaborate structures with blocks, which fueled her lifelong curiosity for machines and systems. The only form of emotional support Ada had was from her grandmother, Judith Milbanke, who would often hug and kiss her, much to Lady Byron's abhorrence. Lady Byron felt no emotional connection with her child, once writing to her own mother, "I talk to it for your satisfaction, not my own, and shall be very glad when you have it under your own roof." Judith's death when Ada was just 6 removed the sole source of warmth in her life, other than her small cat, Mrs. Puff. To further isolate Ada from her father's influence, Lady Lovelace forbade her from communicating with neighbors or associating with friends, requiring all servants and nannies to report any signs of misbehavior. Ada would call these women the Furies. By the age of 7, Ada began experiencing long and painful headaches. The doctor attributed them to a nervous constitution, treating her with leeches and confining her to a dark room for days on end. Despite her strict upbringing and health issues, Ada displayed an insatiable curiosity and enthusiasm for learning, particularly in mathematics and science. Yet another tragedy was to follow. In one of his last letters to Lady Lovelace, Lord Byron poignantly asked, "Is she imaginative? I hope not. It is enough to have one such fool in the family." After years of pleading for a portrait of Ada, Lady Lovelace finally relented and sent him one. A few months later, while fighting in the Greek War of Independence, Byron contracted an illness and died. In his final moments, he was seen holding her portrait, mumbling to himself. Byron was just 36 years old. The news of Lord Byron's death spread across the country, and it was then that 8-year-old Ada first heard her father's name. Her mother informed her of his passing, a revelation that left Ada, who had been discouraged for years from even asking about her father, to weep. As the world mourned the death of the celebrated poet, Ada grappled with the unfamiliarity of his legacy, a name she had never heard, attached to a father she had never known. Lady Byron was deeply immersed in philanthropy, funding schools and educational programs, actively participating in the abolitionist movement, and supporting campaigns dedicated to ending slavery. She also championed causes that provided women with greater opportunities and rights in society. Ada, in her endless quest to gain her mother's approval, tried to involve herself in these pursuits. At the tender age of 10, she drafted a detailed plan for an educational colony for orphaned children. Yet nothing Ada did seemed to impress her mother. Ada grew deeply self-conscious, and during an outing, someone remarked that she was rather unattractive. Reflecting on this, she wrote, "I am happy I am not pretty, as vanity is the cause of unhappiness, and not being pretty frees me from vanity, and therefore unhappiness." Perhaps the isolation and confinement of her metaphorical cage spurred Ada's dreams of flight. By 12, she was captivated by the idea of creating a flying machine, which she dubbed a steam-driven flying horse. She experimented with different materials, feathers, paper, silk, and meticulously studied bird anatomy to understand flight. Ada became deeply absorbed in her project, compiling her findings into a remarkably detailed book called Flyology. This book not only included her intensive research, but also outlined how to determine optimal flight routes across England. However, upon learning of Ada's ambitions, her mother immediately put an end to it, fearing for Ada's safety and considering the endeavor a frivolous distraction from more serious studies. At 13, Ada was struck by a severe case of measles, confining her to bed for a year. Even after recovering, she required crutches to walk for a time. Despite her frailty, Ada continued her studies from bed, voraciously reading mathematics and science. Tutors attended to her at her bedside, adjusting the rigor of her lessons based on her fluctuating health. By 16, she was on the mend, but still struggled with severe mobility issues, relying on crutches. During her convalescence, she fell in love with one of her tutors, William Ealing. Desperate to escape her mother's stringent control and constant surveillance, Ada decided to elope with William. However, when she presented herself to his family, they immediately recognized her as Lord Byron's famous daughter. Ada's reputation followed her wherever she went, and the family quickly contacted Lady Byron, who dragged Ada back home and covered up the entire incident. Despite her unconventional upbringing, Ada was still expected to conform to societal norms. At 17, she made her social debut and was presented at court, escorted by Mary Somerville, one of her tutors. Somerville, a remarkable woman herself, was one of the first 2 women elected as an honorary member of the Royal Astronomical Society. She and Ada remained close for the rest of their lives. It was at one ball that Ada met Charles Babbage. In his early 40s and currently unemployed, Babbage made a living through public lectures and publishing scientific papers. However, he was working on a revolutionary project called the difference engine, and later would work on the analytical engine, the first concept of a computer, incorporating key ideas such as memory, a processing unit, and programmability using punched cards. Unlike earlier machines designed for specific tasks, this was a general-purpose machine capable of performing any calculation or algorithm. Ada immediately recognized his vision and was captivated by it, seeing what few others did, that his ideas could change the world. During their conversation, Babbage lamented the lack of government funding for his machine. Ada, fascinated by it, asked to see the blueprints, and the 2 of them discussed the machine throughout the night. Babbage soon invited Lovelace to his house to see his prototype difference engine, marking the beginning of a defining relationship for both their lives. Babbage quickly realized that Ada had an extraordinary gift for mathematics, dubbing her his enchantress of numbers. Together, they forged a lifelong partnership that would leave an indelible mark on the history of computing. Babbage wasn't the only one whom Ada Lovelace enchanted at these illustrious gatherings. She swiftly became a regular in London's vibrant social scene, her charm and intellect turning heads. She embodied her father's spirit, a mesmerizing dancer, unafraid to voice her thoughts. Though she had never met Lord Byron, his friends couldn't help but see the resemblance, not just in her features, but, as one remarked, particularly the mouth. The gossip mills of London buzzed with curiosity about whom the enigmatic daughter of Lord Byron would marry. Ada maintained an air of mystery, stunning everyone when she announced her marriage to Baron William King, a distinguished and wealthy noble. Ada, now Lady King, lived a life of splendor with her husband, moving between their 3 opulent homes. William, ever the gentleman, was methodical and deliberate. Like any good Victorian couple, they promptly began their family. Married in 1835, Ada gave birth in 1836, 1837, and 1839. Descended from the Byron line, and with William also holding a baronial title, Queen Victoria honored their lineage by promoting him to Earl of Lovelace in 1838, making Ada the Countess of Lovelace. Despite her husband's adoration, Ada's affection was more restrained. He penned her lengthy, impassioned letters, to which she responded with brief notes. His admiration for her intellect and progressive views on women's roles supported her endeavors. Ada, much like her mother, remained emotionally distant from her children, immersing herself in mathematics. She corresponded with Babbage, discussing his innovative projects. She even speculated if his machine could play card games in the future. Her insights significantly aided Babbage's understanding of his invention's potential. He implored Ada to publish a paper on the subject, but she hesitated, fearing gender-based dismissal. So instead, Babbage asked her to translate an Italian paper by Luigi Menabrea on the analytical engine. Lovelace agreed to translate the paper and immersed herself in the task with unwavering dedication. Upon completing the translation, she transcended the original work adding extensive and insightful notes. Her contributions expanded the original paper to 3 times its length, with one addition standing out as truly revolutionary, Note G. In this note, Lovelace demonstrated her profound understanding of Babbage's analytical engine, meticulously detailing how the machine could calculate a sequence of Bernoulli numbers. This was not merely an extension of Menabrea's work, it was groundbreaking. Lovelace's detailed explanation effectively created the first computer program, earning her the distinction of being the world's first computer programmer. This paper became her magnum opus, a work of staggering intellect and foresight. Yet, this achievement nearly shattered her friendship with Charles Babbage. After Ada had poured countless hours into her meticulous writing, Babbage sought to append a preface lamenting the government's failure to fund his analytical engine, believing their lack of support stemmed from an inability to see its practical potential. Ada, however, found this notion counterproductive and feared it would hinder rather than help their cause. She was determined to inform the world about the machine and garner public support, even willing to invest her entire wealth behind it. Babbage demurred, not wanting to relinquish ownership and fearing it would be copied if too many people knew about it. Because Babbage never fully realized the machine, Ada's notes revealed what it could have been. She transitioned from viewing numbers as mere quantities to symbols representing something more. Letters, musical notes, transforming arithmetic into computation. This conceptual leap marked the beginning of the modern computer, a distinction Babbage himself never fully grasped. Lovelace's work envisioned a future where computers would transcend simple arithmetic to compose music, process information, and perform myriad applications. Her vision laid the foundational concepts for modern computing, expanding the horizons of what such machines could achieve. Even as Ada matured, started a family, and immersed herself in the world of mathematics, her domineering mother, Lady Byron, remained an ever-present thorn in her side. Lady Byron was a force of control and manipulation, casting a long shadow over Ada's life. She continuously fabricated illnesses to garner attention, only to miraculously recover, much like in Ada's childhood, where her mother's care was always self-serving. However, the Ada of today was no longer the submissive child of yesterday. She had carved out her own life and identity, and she was unafraid to confront her mother's overbearing ways. In a letter to her mother, Ada once wrote, "The shadows of your fears will no longer eclipse the light of my reason." This reflected her resolve to assert her independence. In Victorian society, women were expected to confine their aspirations to the domestic sphere. However, Ada Lovelace defied these societal norms, knowing she was destined for greatness. Her paper was well received, and she was widely praised for it. In a letter to her mother, she spoke of her insatiable and restless energy to create something of substance. She was unabashed in her self-assessment, writing, "I believe myself to possess a most singular combination of qualities, exactly fitted to make me preeminently a discoverer of the hidden realities of nature." Yet, the personal demons and frail health that plagued Ada Lovelace would make this paper the pinnacle of her achievements. Soon, Ada's health issues returned with a vengeance. Victorian medicine, more art than science, offered her a myriad of treatments: bleedings, opium, laudanum, morphine, and alcohol. In a desperate search for a cure, Ada spent months traveling from one doctor to another. Lady Byron even suggested mesmerism, a dubious treatment of the time, but her health did not improve. In her quest for a remedy, Ada explored Michael Faraday's work, hoping electric therapy could cure her mind. She also turned to a neighbor, Ashley Cross, known as the Thunder and Lightning Man, for his fervent use of electric currents. Ada noted, "Dr. Cross's fervor for the electric currents mirrors my own passion for the mysteries of numbers. Perhaps here, amidst the sparks and coils, lies a remedy for my ailments." She underwent electric therapy, meticulously documenting its effects. During this period, she fell into an affair with Ashley's son, John Cross, a notorious gambler who introduced her to betting. She believed her mathematical knowledge could help her predict the horses. In John's presence, she found fleeting peace, acknowledging, "The shadows of my duties and the weight of secrecy cast a pall over our moments together." However, the bets did not always favor her, and her debts accumulated rapidly. Reflecting on her predicament, she wrote, I once believed that numbers held the key to certainty and success, yet I find myself ensnared in a web of debt and despair, where logic and reason seem to falter. To manage her growing financial woes, she began taking out loans, asking friends for help, and even using her family's jewelry as collateral. When her husband, William King, discovered the extent of her debts, he took responsibility, using his own resources and funds from Lady Byron to pay them off, all while keeping Ada's gambling habit a secret. In her early 30s, Ada Lovelace's health took a dramatic turn for the worse. She collapsed at a London dinner party, starkly revealing her deteriorating condition. Reflecting on this incident, she lamented, "My body betrayed me before society, laying bare the torment I strive to conceal." Her physical appearance changed drastically as she lost significant weight and became visibly frail. To manage her symptoms, Ada was administered opiates, stimulants, and other narcotics, creating a cycle of temporary relief followed by further decline. Ada began to withdraw from social engagements, seeking solace in solitude. This isolation deepened her emotional and mental decline. She expressed her despair, saying, "The shadows of my suffering grow darker with each passing day, driving me into the solitude where I may hide my frailty from the world." Despite her declining health, Ada continued to meet with Charles Babbage. In 1850, during a fleeting period of relative stability in her health, Ada visited her father's childhood home, Newstead Abbey. This visit stirred a new sense of motivation and a profound connection to her lineage. Standing in the grand halls where her father once roamed, she mused, "In these halls where my father once roamed, I feel a strange kinship with the shadows of his past, as if seeking to understand the echoes of his soul within these walls." The visit inspired her to attempt to cease drinking and strive for wellness, declaring, "In the shadow of my father's greatness, I find the strength to forge my own path, to leave a mark upon the world that speaks of innovation and intellect." Following this visit, Ada and her husband attended a horse race where she successfully picked the winning horse. Her husband, ever her ardent supporter, then gave her a note allowing her to gamble on horses. "In this letter, you have my permission to pursue your interest in betting, trusting your keen intellect and discretion," he wrote. However, her continued gambling led to further financial and physical decline. In June 1852, Ada suffered a severe hemorrhage and was diagnosed with uterine cancer. Victorian etiquette dictated that terminal diagnoses were kept from patients, leaving Ada in a cruel ignorance. Her husband bore the truth in silence, but shared it with Lady Byron, who blamed him for Ada's downfall. "Her suffering is as much a consequence of your encouragement of her reckless pursuits as it is of her illness. The debts, the despair, could you not have seen where it would lead?" she scolded. Despite her agony, Ada strove to remain cheerful, penning reassuring letters to her children and mother. She sought solace in wine, laudanum, and even cannabis to alleviate her pain. Lady Byron, ever the stern matron, offered to cover all of Ada's debts, save those accrued from gambling. Discovering that Ada had pawned the Lovelace family jewels to pay off bookmakers, she demanded Ada cease her opium use, proclaiming that her suffering was divine retribution for her sins. Ada's condition worsened. She could scarcely keep down food and was in constant agony. She poignantly noted that both her father and grandfather had perished at her age. With merely 2 months to live, she found solace in playing the piano and revisiting her scientific papers. John Cross made a brief visit, during which Ada slipped him the jewels her mother had reclaimed so he could pawn them once more. After her death, Cross demanded payment to keep Ada's letters private. Her mother paid him off, and the letters were burned. Ada made Babbage the executor of her will. Her children were summoned, but she was in too much pain to see them for long. When the doctor finally disclosed her condition, she had already suspected the truth and was given morphine to ease her pain. "I am torn awake by agony," she told William. She expressed her wish to be buried next to her father. On August 19, 1852, Ada asked to see her friend Charles Dickens. At her request, he read her the death scene from Dombey and Son. He was the last person outside her family to see her. When Lady Byron arrived, she dismissed all the servants, declared Ada's letter making Babbage her executor legally void, and barred Babbage from visiting again. On September 1st, a drugged and agonizing Ada was pressured to confess her misdeeds to William. He emerged later, his face ashen, never revealing what she had said, but leaving a note stating, "Should I be absent, Lady Byron is the mistress of my house." It took nearly 3 more months for Ada to die, suffering from immense pain and watched over by her mother, who refused to give her medicine, believing she needed to suffer for her sins to be absolved. Ada Lovelace died on November 27, 1852. She was 36, the very same age as her father when he passed away. Ada was buried on December 3, 1852, in the little village church of St. Mary Magdalene in Hucknall, Nottingham, next to her father, Lord Byron. Her mother did not attend the funeral. Ada Lovelace's life unfolded like a poignant narrative, a sonnet of brilliance interwoven with shadows of profound struggle. Much like her father, her existence was a tapestry of light and darkness. Her visions soared beyond her era, imagining a future brimming with technological wonders, even as her own life was confined by illness and personal demons. Her enduring legacy stands as a testament to the fusion of creativity and scientific inquiry. Today, we celebrate Ada, not merely as the first computer programmer, but as a beacon of unwavering brilliance in the face of adversity. "That brain of mine is something more than merely mortal, as time will show," she declared, and indeed, time has borne witness to her genius. Her legacy, encapsulated in her pioneering work and indomitable spirit, continues to inspire. I hope you enjoyed the story of Countess Ada Lovelace. Let me know your thoughts about her in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe for more. Your support really helps keep the channel going. And as always, thanks for watching.